Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Fixate Binge Podcast. I am, as before, your host, Joe. I'm excited to have you back. Welcome to the month of November. Welcome to your fitness plan being thoroughly derailed by all of the delectable treats. I mean, you're probably still scarfing down your kids' Halloween candy so that you don't have to pay an expensive bill at the dentist's in 6 months' time. And whatever plans you had for slipping into that bikini or mankini by summer's time, forget it. It's out the window. So, and I say that self-deprecatorily myself because there is no chance that I'm lowering my waistband for the next couple months. But so if you're feeling a little bit like you might threaten to have a flabalanche if you unhook your belt, I'm with you. I'm with you. Embrace the jiggle. So I am so excited to have two very awesome guests on. They are waiting for me to bring them on, and I can't wait for you to meet them. We're going to get into it, and I think we're going to have such a great time. Before we do that, I want to talk to you just very briefly about a couple things that I've been watching or have watched that we can discuss real quick. First of all, right out of the gate, everyone's talking about it. I might as well throw my 2 cents in. Welcome to Derry on HBO is pure nightmare fuel. It is horrifying. In the 2 episodes that have since shown at the time of this recording, I am shook. I am bothered. I will never look at a jar of pickles the same way again. And I love pickles. So you've been warned. If you have a love affair, as I do, with pickles, whether they're kosher or not, you're going to have a hard time loving pickles the same way after seeing episode 2 of Welcome to Derry. You've been warned. The other couple things I've been watching is I watched, as everyone's talking about it, Catherine Bigelow's the latest, House of Dynamite. And I don't want to sound like a Gen Xer, because I am, bashing on what seems to be a demographic of the younger generation than me. But everyone seems to have their knickers in a twist over the fact that there wasn't much of a denouement or a conclusion or a final scene. It builds into this wonderful crescendo, and then the crescendo just kind of rolls to credits. And a lot of people are bothered by that. And I revert back to Shakespeare, something that the chorus says at the beginning of Henry V in Shakespeare: on your imaginative forces work. In other words, I watched House of Dynamite. The ending came. I was a little like, okay, that's an interesting way to end it. And then I went to sleep and then had nightmares. And I think that was the intended purpose of you fill in the blank. What happens to America? You, the viewer, fills in the blank. And I think this generation is a little bit mollycoddled. Is that kind of a pretentious word? I think they're a little bit pampered in everything, the meaning. It's all, you're hit over the head with the meaning. You are spoon fed a literal interpretation and a single interpretation of things. And I don't really like that. And I don't think Bigelow was going for that to begin with. So if you haven't seen A House of Dynamite, streaming right now on Netflix, you owe it to yourself to check it out and reserve judgment about the ending. Okay. And I've kind of spoiled the ending, but reserve judgment because, my goodness, excellent all the way through. And the last thing I want to talk about before I bring my guests on, I'm so excited, is I went to the movies alone, and sometimes that's nice. I went to the movies alone, and I saw Begonia, Yorgos Lanthimos's latest, Begonia. What the hell did I just watch is really kind of the impression I have. I cannot believe what I saw. And I, by this point, it's par for the course when it comes to Yorgos. Almost every film he makes is what the hell, what the heck, what the helly, what the LeBron James, what am I watching? So I loved Begonia in certain ways. Is it Lanthimos's best work? I don't think it is, but his films are so distinct from each other that it's almost trying to compare apples to oranges. I just admire his bravery. I admire taking risks. That to me is a boldness that we need in cinema. And I just think Emma Stone is a goddess on the screen. And I think the young actor who debuts, Aiden, I can't remember his last name, he gives such a genuine, authentic portrayal. I love it. I understand he's on the spectrum. I have a son who's on the spectrum. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And Jesse Plemons, man, he always brings it. So a great film. if you're a Lanthimos fan, I think you're going to really enjoy it. If you're not, you might leave the cinema scratching your head. It's okay. That's what these films are supposed to do for you. But don't sit on these films. I think they're fantastic, each of them. And welcome to Derry, of course. Now, without further ado, I am stoked with a capital S to bring on writer and director GG HAWKINS, and also writer and I think producer. I think you ladies do everything. You wear multiple different hats. I've got Madison Lanesey. They both join me from here in the glorious Sunshine State. Vote yes on 50. Welcome to the Fixate and Binge Podcast, GG and Madison.
Hello, thank you for having us.
We're so happy to be on.
Thank you. I am so excited for you guys to be on. A lot of what this podcast is, and I think even how the entertainment industry works, I don't think, in fact, I know it's that way, is networking and who you know. And if somebody has a good experience, would they recommend, a friend or an associate in the business to have a similar experience? And I met you two through a mutual friend of ours, Heston Horwin, who was on this podcast a few weeks ago discussing the misadventures of Vincent Hick, which Madison, you're in. You have a small part in, which is just great. And I gotta say, I loved that film. I've geeked out about it. I think Heston might be wondering, backing away slowly, going, he loves our film a little too much. We might need to get a restraining order. And if he's listening to this, he gets the joke. But from that, I understood that the two of you had made a film, and you let me watch a kind of an advanced screening of it. And today, that this podcast is being released, if you're listening to it on a Tuesday, the first day it's been released, it's November 4th. And that is also coincidentally the same day that your film is available for video on demand at Apple TV Plus, Amazon, anywhere else?
I think that's it for now. But yeah, go to both those places and buy the movie to put on a digital bookshelf.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Absolutely right. Own the movie. I think because it requires repeat viewings. I think there's so much going on in your film, which I can't wait to discuss. In fact, what am I doing here? Why don't we just, for our listeners, play the trailer? So I'm going to do that right now.
Teresa, isn't it your wedding day?
This is the official honeymoon.
It's our honeymoon.
Wow. She wanted an adventure.
Pinterest.
I feel like you're mad at me.
Right now, I'm relaxed. I'm relaxing.
Yo. Hi. I'm Paz.
What if we seduced Paz?
Like on our honeymoon.
I just hear honeymoon and suddenly I feel like this weight. Like suddenly, like this needs to be like the best week of our lives. Do you want to join us?
Yeah.
I thought I was standing on something solid.
I wanna go back.
Do you hate yourself?
I wanna go back.
What is wrong with me? I do feel seen by you.
I see you.
And I see you seeing me.
You two need to figure this out.
I feel really, really good.
Sorry if I'm a bit wound up.
Okay. And that is the trailer for I Really Love My Husband. Now, I don't really even know where to begin. I gotta ask, I guess, how did this idea come about? I mean, the two of you wrote this together, Madison and Gigi, but what's the first spark? That's usually what I ask people. Where does this come from? From the depths, from Dante's Ninth Circle of Hell? No, I'm kidding. From the Balrog? No, I'm just kidding. But where does the idea stem from? If you could share.
It's such a good question. I think the true spark is I was in my 30s and had started directing late and was like, well, if I don't take a big swing now, what am I going to do? And I took a micro budget producing course at the Gotham, and the big takeaway from it was like, what is something you have access to that's unique? Now reverse engineer a story based off of that. And I had two things that were unique. One was access to this location in Panama, where my stepdad lived for 16 years. My brother was born there. And we were selling that house, which was like a source of income for my family for many years. Also, the character Paz is sort of my stepdad. So I was like, that's one thing that's unique, and it's about to expire. And the other thing was this group of people, including Madison, that every time we'd make something, great things would happen. So I was like, okay, I already knew I wanted to write a movie about with Madison at the lead, and then we kind of like reverse engineered it from there. So I like called her up and was like, "Do you want to make a movie in Panama?" And she said yes. Thank God. There wasn't even a script.
That, I mean, if anybody called me and said, "Would you like to make a movie in Panama?" I would be like, "Yeah, of course."
Yeah.
Location, location, location.
Yes,
Oh, that's really cool. Madison, what was your experience writing for this story and being on location? What was it like?
It was definitely like a top 5 experience of my life. Gigi called me with the great question of, do you want to make a feature in Panama? And obviously I was like immediate yes. And I knew saying yes to Gigi is very easy. I know we're going to work well together. And I also know that like Gigi's a force to be reckoned with, and things will happen and people will jump aboard. So I was really excited, and then by the idea of it, but kind of jumping without a net. I wasn't really sure like what we were making quite yet. And then Gigi did like a first draft, and we had like a table read, and we knew we had the bones there, and there were maybe like a couple beats that we knew like we wanted to flesh out more. And so we would have these kind of like workshops where I would come over, as well as Scott Monahan, who was originally playing the role of Drew, and we would kind of just like take these beats and just go deep into them. So it was kind of like, okay, Secret Island, for example, was like, here is what it is on the page. Like, let's get it on its feet. Let's improvise. And then we would kind of workshop it from there. So it was cool because it was a very collaborative process. So Gigi at the helm of the story construction, but then also very collaborative with everyone who worked on the project, and allowing me to have, you know, I was allowed to pitch on story, which a lot of screenwriters like won't necessarily let their actor do. So it was amazing. Like I got to like have big pitches that I think I won't normally get to have in a writing process with somebody else. And Gigi was always very open to them. So that was great. And that made me feel really involved. And then also, yeah, I think like what was exciting was we were pulling from real stuff that we've experienced or felt in relationships. And I think that made it just feel very visceral and real for like a first feature, instead of doing like, oh, I'm doing like a film where I come on as an actor and I stand on my mark and that's it. You know, it felt like much more involved and much more of a shadow self reckoning.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I watched it, and then I noticed that the two of you ladies had written it together and that you were both heavily involved, I thought this came from somewhere authentic. It came from somewhere genuine. And I really connected with your character, Madison. I really, really connected with Teresa because there was a truth that is, I mean, the script is fantastic. The way you express yourself as that character, it felt real. It feels like I'm talking to Teresa right now. I don't know who Madison really is. The best version of you I know is from the movie.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's all, yeah. Got it. And I just thought, I think your character might be misunderstood by audience. As I said as much in my review, I said, you know, it might be seen as maybe selfish or self-centered, but so often with, I think, and I'm trying to riff here, philosophical, but I think because of social mores, women are supposed to say yes to love, to coupling, to marriage. And I don't think that there's a in-depth discussion. I say this as somebody who's been married now for almost 25 years. You know, there was a point in my marriage, and I hope my wife doesn't kill me for talking about this, but there was a point in my marriage, about a year in, my wife and I said, you know, we never talked about I would do the laundry and make the meals, but that's what I'm doing. And I realized what I had done there. I had done something that I think was happening in your marriage. I had just said, well, that's just the way it's supposed to be. And I just assume you were okay with this social contract that we never discussed, but those are the roles. Those are the roles we play. I'm Drew. I go to the honeymoon, the late honeymoon, and I have a good time, and I play the tourist, and I wear the goofy hat, and my wife just enjoys the experience. And I like that your character was like, this doesn't feel real to me. Am I getting that wrong? I don't know.
No, that's such a wonderful take to hear. And yeah, it's been such an interesting journey playing this character and then having everybody have such a visceral reaction to her. I think I at least knew in the development process that it was a risky character, just because also I think I have empathy that anybody who watches who's ever gotten their heart broken, I think she represents the heartbreaker role in the sense of how things unfold without spoiling. But but so I can understand, because I'm sure in a different moment of my life I might watch our movie and project my ex onto Teresa and be like, oh, that's when they say those, it's hard, for people who have been in love, because love is very hard. But it also took on like a meta quality, because I think Teresa's thing is that her husband is so obviously playing the tropes of what it is to like kind of be the lovable husband who just gets to, like skate along through life. And he gets to be the one to ask everybody how their day is. And he gets to be the one who looks like the hero and helps the guy on the plane. And she becomes like a invisible, almost like bystander to her own life. And as a result of that, she starts to become reactionary. And then as a result of that, she starts to become perceived as the villain. And so I think that it was so funny having that happen with audiences in the movie. Like what's happening to Teresa in the movie is happening to Teresa in the movie world. So
Right.
she had to go through the journey twice in a lot of ways.
Well, I particularly love the opening scene where I think you're in the bathroom, in a bathroom, and you're just, hence the title of the movie. And by the way, we want everyone listening to this to buy it. If you don't want to buy it, at least rent it. But we want you to see this. So we're not going to spoil. We're not going to offer a ton of spoilers. We will not discuss specifically how it ends. We will say that it's an interesting ending. We'll leave it at that. But I want everyone to see this because this is such a great film. But that opening scene with you in the bathroom, that told me so much in the way you played that, in the way it reminded me, and I'm not trying to be glib or silly. I grew up on Saturday Night Live, and there's a moment where Stuart Smalley looks in the mirror and he says, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. It's almost like the things we have to tell ourselves. If we don't believe it, we have to tell ourselves so we can fake it till we make it. And I felt like that was your marriage. I don't feel it, but I feel like I'm under social pressure, family pressure, friend pressure. I have to fake it till I make it. Why am I not feeling it? And I got that from the first scene, which was just excellently performed, wonderfully directed. GG, this was great. There isn't really a question there, but I was going to say, if I can ask GG, what emotional truth in the whole film, this is a big question, but what emotional truth were you trying to convey with I really love my husband?
Oh, it's such a
big
great question. And like, I just feel, Joseph, that you were able to articulate something up front that is so true to the experience, that Teresa is questioning what has been sort of a going through the motions life. And that it really is, a story about if somebody can't love themselves, they can't ever love anyone else under any circumstance, even if he's great on paper. And also, I've been to many weddings where I'm like, wow, these people are getting married and boy, are they settling. Like that is so real, but so many people just aren't brave enough to even admit to themselves that they're unhappy or are operating from this place of fear. And while Teresa's on this journey of sort of like running up against what is expected of her. And, from a societal perspective, there's familial pressure, like there's this entire world that's pushing her into this particular trajectory. She is actively trying to figure something out. And I love this idea of like the SNL, I am enough, I am good, and people really like me, because that feels so true. And I think that we had a lot of conversations about our own relationships and what it's like to be in something but not know that it's not working just yet, but know that something is off, and how scary it can be to be facing that. I'm sorry, I don't even remember what your question was.
No. You're answering beautifully. It was, and I think you're answering it. It's what emotional truth
Oh,
were you
emotional
go?
truth.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, it's great.
Oh, I guess when it came to ultimately finding like the emotional truth for the movie, one, I am on Team Teresa from beginning to end, and there was a lot of shaping to get to that point. And to your point about this being a movie that's worth watching a couple of times, like I do think that upon first watch, it's a little bit of a shock to the system. Some people, like right after the movie, like look at us and they're like, I am Teresa, I feel so seen. And then some people, it's only on second watch that they really see how much she's trying, how active she is in trying to work for this relationship that is, fundamentally built on a flawed dynamic. And then I think when it came to like balancing out the tone, I put a lot of trust in the performances. I think that casting is everything. And I had worked with Madison before, but I hadn't worked with Arta-G, who plays Paz. I hadn't worked with Travis Quinton Young, who plays Drew, or Lisa Jacqueline Starrett, who plays Kiki. But I basically had to pull us all into the same playing field. And there were times where things were getting like too funny in the moment. And I was like, okay, well, let's pull it back and let it be grounded, because I genuinely believe that all these characters, even though it is, there are comedic moments, and sometimes where we're going really off the rails, they're all trying their best. They're all operating at the top of their intelligence at every single beat, trying to connect, trying to understand themselves, trying to find happiness. And that, I think, is like the emotional truth of the movie.
Mm.
That is a fantastic answer. Wow. And I think it speaks to your strength as a director to kind of pull people back a little bit from, I've talked about this in a previous podcast with other guests, where, you have to make a decision. You have to strike a balance. There are elements in your film that are kind of funny, because Drew is kind of dishy and funny at times. And even Madison, your character, Teresa, the way you play off of Drew is it's a bit funny as well. But I get it, because if you take the tone of the film too far into comedic territory, then it undermines, I think, some of the more dramatic and important moments that the film needs to address. And I can give an extreme example from a blockbuster film. It was like the third Thor movie or whatever, the one with Natalie Portman. I was like, hey, Taika Waititi, great film, spectacle, of course. That's what we expect in a Marvel film. But you're going for laughs, and we've got Natalie Portman's character dying of cancer.
Mm.
I think the humor undermined her character, and Christian Bale's character too. He played a tragic character, and because you went for laughs and you didn't rein it back in, and I think that's something you've done, because you've got to. It feels like everyone on set had a good time making this film. That they were just, you could have made it a comedy if you wanted to, but it wouldn't have struck the notes you wanted, the tone you wanted, which I think it's good that as a director you have to kind of, all right, everybody. I'm sorry, I have no question. I'm just riffing. I think that's a great answer. Thank you.
I just want to speak to House of Dynamite, because you brought it up, and
yeah.
like how I watched it this week. I actually almost texted you, Madison, and said you should watch this, because Madison is known to watch like horrific Ring camera footage to go to bed. Like but but she just got back from shooting a movie, and I was like, she needs R&R. I'm not going to put her on like a nuclear, whirlwind. But there's something like procedurally calming about watching everything implode, which is why I really liked House of Dynamite. I think it doesn't deliver on like movie stuff, so that's why I watched two other nuclear bomb movies this week, including Crimson Tide, which is the most amazing movie I've ever seen in my entire life. But I think there's something very human about watching a sort of like people driving towards the bottom, rock bottom, and like and it's cathartic. And I do feel that audiences have connected with that in ways that are really surprising. But it's just human nature. Like, we're rubberneckers. We like to see things go wrong, and it's reasons that we're drawn to story. But there's just something like innately human about it, and probably cathartic to see somebody doing something about it in their life, and in this case, in the movie.
Yeah, I second everything she just said. I think you need to see House of Dynamite. I think Catherine Bigelow is one of the greatest directors alive today. I
do love Catherine Bigelow, and speaking of binging and nuclear subject matter, I do a thing where like I'll watch a thing that was so popular at a time, but like 4 years later when everyone's done with it. And I recently watched Chernobyl for the first time. And speaking to which I think is one of the best pilot episodes of television I've ever seen. And speaking to what you were talking about in terms of our film, is like, that to me is a story that was handled with care in a way that was, yes, we are going to deal with the science of it. And yes, we are going to deal with the historical, cover up nature of it. But we're also going to treat the characters and their emotions really seriously. And we're going to, there's that beautiful scene with the caterpillar crawling on the guy's hand, and they're having this emotional conversation about like, is he a good person? Like, did he do a good job at the end? And it's like, in this landscape of this historical thing, which I think is the hardest to do in terms of writing. Like, I was an assistant to a director once who had to write a true story, and it was like, and I had to try to help him, and I was like, this is harder than writing something of your own. Like, when you're trying to honor all these facts, you don't know which things to include, which to not. But the emotional truth of people is always going to be, I think, what takes us into a story.
You could not have said that better. You're absolutely right. I think when you're dealing, especially when you're dealing with history that there's still people alive who were there. And can speak to it, and you feel almost an obligation, I would think, to honor the truth, their truth, what they lived through, and not mangle it or subvert it to meet the formula of good movie making. You could mangle the history of William Wallace to fit into the framework of a sweeping, romantic, brutal epic, but the fact is that you kind of offended historians. But if you're offending living relatives, they're like, that was my grandfather's experience. How dare you do that? And I think that's why I really appreciate the reverence and care with most films about the Holocaust. There is a kind of a commitment to tell truth, no matter how ugly it is. And if it doesn't fit into the framework of the natural rise and fall and denouement of movie making, then it is what it is. I really appreciate that. By slight point of interest, one of the doctors who's an actor in that opening scene of Chernobyl and then suffers horrifically afterwards from radiation is a good friend of mine. It was a best friend of mine in England.
No way!
Yeah, Sam Troughton.
Wow.
All
the actors in that show were brilliant.
They're incredible. Yeah. Sam Troughton played Robespierre in Ridley Scott's Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix.
Wow.
He was in a great horror film, a folk horror film called The Ritual, about some British.
Oh, I've seen The Ritual. I love The Ritual.
Yeah, he's one of the last two. He's one of the last two guys.
Oh my gosh. I'm a fan of his.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sam Troughton's fantastic. When I was in grad school, he came to my lectures, which was really nice. I had student lectures. He came. I went up and saw him in Streetcar Named Desire in Liverpool. and he played
Cool.
Stanley Kowalski. Good friend. Our sons went to birthday parties together. He's a good guy, and I'm gonna get him on the pod eventually. I will get him on the pod. Yeah, great film. Chernobyl is absolutely right, and right within Chernobyl's brilliance is House of Dynamite. Those are companion pieces. If you really think about it, you could almost. Oh no, I don't want to give it away. I was gonna say something, Gigi, and totally give away the ending.
Yeah,
I won't do it.
Okay.
I'll leave it. Sorry, I almost spoiled it for you. That would have sucked. Okay. I really love my husband. In my review, I remember saying things that this is a very, I wrote it down, sorry. In my review, I said it's an honest commentary on love and intimacy and what makes a functional relationship. When the two of you were co-writing this, what conversations and we may have covered this, but what conversations or personal observations did you put into that to kind of embrace that honesty?
Well, you mentioned the first scene, which I think was like one of my bigger places of input in the script. Gigi really did kind of craft the majority of the script, but the beginning scene was an addition of mine. And what I can speak to about that was kind of the epiphany I had about the character, because we shot the first scene after we shot everything else.
Like 6 months later after editing.
Oh, wow.
And it was so it was a solve to a problem.
It was a solve to a problem. And in that, it made me realize something about the character, which is that a big emotional theme of playing Teresa is this idea of self-sabotage, and kind of how in Teresa's like quest to be perfect, I think Teresa's such a perfectionist. She's like trying to get to her goal weight. She's trying to fast. She's trying to have the most exciting sexual life and have stability in her marriage. She's trying to have the most exciting honeymoon. Like, I think in her like quest to be perfect, it's coming from this deep place of maybe self-loathing. We kind of touch on that with the Kiki scene. And then as a result, I think she unknowingly is self-sabotaging herself. And I think that when I was thinking about what a possible first scene could be, I had remembered a story a friend had told me that he said that an ex of his had called him on her wedding day. And I was so haunted by that story for so many years. I was like, why would she do that? Now her forever memory is going to be that she called her ex-boyfriend on her wedding day. Like, that is it devastated me in a way that like, it makes you feel that like nervous feeling in your stomach when you hear something so horrifically sad about somebody. And I was like, oh, that's perfect for her. Like, she would do something like that. Like, she would kind of betray herself in that way, in a noble way, to think that she is like perfecting something or moving on, but like is really just getting in her own way so much of the time. So I think like to answer your question, a lot of like the exploration came from these like gritty, sticky human things that we have. Like, I think that's where Gigi and I really get along as creators, is it's like, what is the thing that is like the most tough to sort through? Like, let's put that in.
Yeah. And I see my job is to create, share, hear the reactions, which can also be the context of having conversations about our lives, our experiences, like receive that, process it, and then like follow my intuition from there and iterate and iterate and iterate. There are certain things, for example, there's a turn that happens towards the end that originally was happening between two different characters. And then Madison was like, well, what if it was this person and this person? And I was like, oh my God, yes, that's correct. Like, sometimes it's like when somebody presents an idea, your gut immediately knows like, oh yeah, that is the right thing to happen for the story. And then other times it's more like a sifting through, processing, honing in. For example, there were many iterations of the script where I was going back and forth and having a lot of discussions about like, well, is it their honeymoon? This would all feel really soon to be happening, like right after a wedding. Like, no, this is their delayed honeymoon. It's a year after their marriage. That feels like a perfect place where like the glow of the wedding and the honeymoon phase is over. Now you're faced with the stark reality of you're stuck with this person. So there was a lot of sort of like iterating around that type of stuff, even iterating around the inciting incident, which in the past was like, you know, a sort of moment of crisis on a wedding night or hitting turbulence on an airplane. And then as you further understand the characters, and you'll see in the sort of post credits first opening scene, it's really like threads this very specific needle that we need to understand how Teresa sees her husband and understand like nothing is wrong, but it's not right. And so that came from that, you know, working it and trying things and doing table reads. Sometimes I'd like get Madison on a Zoom and you'd sit in this exact spot and I'd be like, can you just read this monologue? And I hear it in your voice. Okay, now can you improvise something? Okay, cool. Okay, see you later. Bye.
Yeah.
Like and go and type some shit out. Like I'm very much you know, I need a lot to be processing, and it's kind of like a constant conversation for me.
You know, my wife is going to karate kick me in the face for telling this story, but I never get to tell it. But I'm gonna tell it. It happens at the beginning of our honeymoon. We've just been married. I don't know why I'm telling this story, but it is reminiscent of what happens on the plane with the passenger. Similar. It happens in an airport. We're this is right after 9/11. So this is like 3 months after 9/11.
Oh my gosh.
So the nation's on high alert, and we're in Salt Lake City, Utah, flying from Salt Lake City, Utah to London for a honeymoon. And this is just a couple months before the Winter Olympics is going to start. So there's tons of security. This is right before the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, right? So there was heightened security at the airport, and we're trying to get on our plane, and they're randomly pulling people right before they actually step onto the plane, pulling people aside and going through their bags. This is before you had to take off your shoes. This is before that. So they randomly pull my wife aside. Now, my wife's family and one of my friends had managed to put some toys and knickknacks and things in her bag.
Oh my God.
So this TSA guy pulls my wife aside and is going through her stuff, and me, I had a moment like Drew. I like just went and just pretended I was like Peter denying the Christ, you know. I was like, who's this lady? I don't know. And I stood there and just let my wife just
True.
pulled out.
That would happen to Teresa.
Yeah, literally. That is like such a Teresa coded moment. People don't give her enough grace. It's like
Tell your wife we see her.
Okay, I definitely will. And fortunately things didn't get worse from there. Fortunately, but yeah, I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't for a minute think about her embarrassment. I just was like, as long as I'm not in that, you know.
I also think like one of the things I'm learning about the film industry, which I feel like I didn't really get before, is how much filmmakers like play off of other films, play off of other filmmakers. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gigi, but I feel like Ruben Ostlund was like a big influence to our tone. Like we were really drawn to his films, and both Gigi and I were very like affected by the avalanche scene in Force Majeure. Have you ever seen that?
So good.
Sort of like we were kind of like those moments where a crazy thing is happening that's so out of everyone's control, but then it reflects something about your relationship so specifically that like now neither of you can like move on.
See it.
Like,
yeah.
And this is the same Ruben that did, if I'm not wrong, Triangle of Sadness.
Yes.
Which I loved. I loved it. For a while I thought it was a Yorgos film. I thought this is kind of Lanthimosian, but no, it was Ruben Osterlund. Yeah. Oh yeah. Great filmmaker. Hey everybody, this is Joe here at the end of the first part of this 2-part podcast with my wonderful guests, director, writer GG HAWKINS and writer and actress Madison Lanesey. We are discussing, of course, their wonderful film, I Really Love My Husband, which premiered at South by Southwest, the film festival in Austin, Texas. This is a great film. I loved it. I was able to watch it, review it, and I hope you've been enjoying this conversation as much as I have. You must come back for the second part next Tuesday, which I believe, let's see, November 12th. I think that's November 12th, or no, it's November 11th. You'll have to come back next week for the second part of this wonderful conversation. But that's enough for me, and I'll see you back next week for part 2 of this wonderful podcast with my guests, GG Hawkins and Madison Lanesey. Have a good one. Take care.